on the perils of high dopamine, a double-edged sword of modernity.
In recent decades, as the frontiers of neuroscience have steadily expanded, the term dopamine has crept from medical journals into everyday parlance. Often dubbed the pleasure molecule, it is celebrated for its role in motivation, reward, and goal-oriented behavior. However, I would argue, after considerable reflection, that the widespread glorification of dopamine may be both misguided and perilous. To my mind, the unchecked pursuit of dopamine-inducing activities is not merely a harmless trend, but rather a subtle and insidious threat to mental clarity, emotional resilience, and ultimately, human flourishing.
Let me begin by acknowledging what cannot be denied. Dopamine is essential. It fuels ambition, helps us remain on task, and gives us a sense of accomplishment. Without it, the very drive to learn, to create, to love, indeed to live, would be gravely diminished. It is, strictly speaking, the neurological engine of desire. When kept within healthy bounds, it propels individuals towards long-term goals, and contributes, in no small measure, to personal success. Indeed, one might say that dopamine is the spark that kindles the fire of human achievement. That said, when the pursuit of dopamine becomes an end in itself, divorced from meaningful activity, the result is often a hollow and compulsive existence. As the old proverb goes, too much of a good thing is good for nothing. In our digital age, the avenues for easy dopamine spikes are virtually endless. Social media likes, fast food indulgences, binge-worthy entertainment, and the addictive feedback loops of online gaming. The result? A populace that is increasingly overstimulated and yet emotionally anemic.
It would be naive to suggest that this phenomenon is entirely accidental. The architects of many modern technologies have gone out of their way to tap into our dopamine systems, using persuasive design to keep us perpetually engaged. This creates what I would call a dopaminergic trap, an environment in which attention spans shrink. Gratification must be instant, and long-term focus is sacrificed on the altar of immediate pleasure.
From a philosophical standpoint, the dangers are even more profound. High dopamine can reinforce short-term thinking and impulsivity. Over time, it may erode one's capacity to delay gratification, a faculty that is, in my view, indispensable for both ethical conduct and intellectual progress. One cannot build a life of substance on a foundation of fleeting thrills. As the saying goes, he who chases two rabbits catches none. In the long run, those who habitually seek the next dopamine hit often find themselves incapable of withstanding boredom, frustration, or the demands of deep work. On the other hand, it must be conceded that dopamine is not the villain per se. The problem lies not in its presence, but in its chronic overstimulation. If one cultivates a lifestyle grounded in discipline, purpose, and reflection, dopamine can be harnessed to tremendous effect. Artists, scientists, and thinkers alike have channeled its force to bring about masterpieces and discoveries. The key, however, is to ensure that dopamine follows meaning, not the other way around.
In conclusion, while dopamine has its rightful place in the orchestra of the brain, it must not be allowed to conduct the entire symphony. We must draw the line between pleasure and compulsion, lest we become slaves to our own biochemistry. As I see it, the challenge of our time is not merely to seek stimulation, but to rediscover the quiet rewards of patience, presence, and purposeful living. For it is not the constant pursuit of pleasure that leads to contentment, but the cultivation of values that stand the test of time.
Thank you for listening to English Audio Lounge. We hope you have enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more audio stories and video classes to improve your English.